A man who wanted to be a rainbow. The man who wanted to shine the light of love to the world. A young man by the name of Peter Pirani stepped off the Greyhound bus in downtown San Francisco. Yes, Peter had a wonderful, high-paying electronics engineering job in South Carolina, but there was no gay community. It was very unfriendly. It was very homophobic. He was forced to leave that wonderful job and his friends, get on a bus and head to San Francisco. He had been reading a lot about its enormous gay community that was becoming a mecca for gays and lesbians. He was desperate. He had to try it. He arrived with one suitcase and maybe $1,000 in his pocket. Peter found a cheap residence hotel, a very simple room with a bed, a desk, and a sink, with a bathroom down the hall. He noticed, however, there were several homeless young men sleeping on the stairs or on the plastic-covered sofas in the hallways. They seemed friendly. He was not afraid. Peter did find a nice job working for a TV station in downtown San Francisco. With that being said and done, and it was a place to live, he did not need much. Peter then tried to find a home in San Francisco's gay community. Now, you have to understand that although Peter was a brilliant engineer, he had Asperger's, he was a bit goofy, and he had social problems. Proper etiquette, proper socializing, things like that. And he dressed in beautiful, colorful clothing and when it's raining, under a crystal clear plastic raincoat. He wanted to let himself shine. Well, evidently, that persona just did not match with the gay community. He was ostracized big time. On a few occasions, he was asked to leave bars because he was so different. He was kicked out of a gay bathhouse because he wanted to wear his clear plastic raincoat over his nude body. So he was lonelier and lonelier and lonelier. He cried so hard standing alone in a park that his tears formed rivers. Those rivers of his tears formed a small creek that flowed down the hill in the park to the street and down the street to the ocean. Peter felt a connection with the ocean, far more of a connection than with the gay community. He did find one friend that he was close to. One of the homeless men in his hotel befriended Peter. He was a frail, elderly man, very weak, but he showed his love to Peter. The two of them fell in love. Peter learned that the old man, his name was William, had terminal cancer. They were together for 1 year, and the old man, William, died peacefully, with Peter the only one at his side. After the old man died, Peter was once again very much alone. He was wandering aimlessly alone around Golden Gate Park that he saw a bright star in the sky. He realized it was the North Star. As he looked up at the star, he saw it winking at him. He felt it beckoning to him. A very faint rainbow reached down from the northern star to somewhere way, way far north than where he was in San Francisco. He felt at peace. Earlier on, during his long time of loneliness, he was beginning to look for another place to live. He remembered reading about Bellingham, Washington, and it was a small liberal town with a university north of Seattle. But he did notice they had a small, unique museum called the Spark Museum of Electrical Invention. Now, standing in Golden Gate Park with a northern star beckoning at him, with a rainbow reaching down, Bellingham came to his mind. He whispered very softly, "Bellingham," and the star shone brighter. The rainbow extending down from the star shone brighter, and there was suddenly like a small halo of gold at the bottom of the rainbow, way, way, way far north. Was that halo of gold embracing Bellingham? Peter cried. Peter cried with joy, the rivers of his tears of joy formed yet another stream in Golden Gate Park, and it joined other little streams. He felt connected, fully connected to the earth, and he knew he was on his way to Bellingham. Peter worked for a few more months, saving money, being very frugal, and he bought a bicycle. His goal was to ride a bicycle from San Francisco to Bellingham, Washington. So Peter finally rode his bicycle out of downtown San Francisco up to the Golden Gate, crossed the Golden Gate Bridge, and started to head north. It took a month, maybe 2 months, but Peter was greeted by beautiful vistas of hills and valleys and mountains and shoreline. People were friendly. Other bicyclists he encountered were very, very friendly. Already, Peter felt a sense of community just riding his bicycle on north and north. Keep going through the California coastline, going through Oregon, going up through Washington State, more hills, more valleys, more mountains, more ocean, more water, more beauty, and more friends. Other bicyclists, when they learned that he was riding his bicycle from San Francisco to Bellingham, Washington, truly made him feel like family. When Peter arrived in Burlington, Washington, he found the Route 11, which was Chuckanut Road. He knew he was on the last road before he reached O little town of Bellingham. Chuckanut Road ran along the skirts of the Chuckanut Mountains with gorgeous views of water, the windy road, beautiful countryside, beautiful vistas. Then, with the last 3 turns of Chuckanut Road, he felt that he was at the gates of Bellingham. You cross a little bridge like a threshold, and you're at home. He hears the serenade of thousands of violins playing as he arrived in Bellingham. He rode a little bit further north, and he found the beautiful Boulevard Park. He put his bicycle on the ground, and he plopped down with his back against a tree. Some other bicyclists gathered around him, and when he was talking about his trip from San Francisco here to Bellingham, more bicyclists gathered around him, and they formed a small community. They formed a family. They greeted him with open arms. They attentively listened to his stories about his ride. He felt more community in that first hour in Bellingham than he ever did in all his time in San Francisco, except for that little old man, William, he met among the homeless in the hotel. Peter now wished that William was with him right now. But Peter quickly found a job working for a sound production company, doing sound for small groups, and he found a small home in Bellingham. With some trepidation, but with also anticipation, he walked into the Spark Museum. He paid his admission and walked into the galleries. There stood in front of Peter a short man with a beard wearing a felt hat. That man was the curator of the museum. They became instant friends. He felt very welcome, and he was welcome as a volunteer to help them fix old radios and electronics. Peter thrived at the museum. He also had friends that suggested to Peter, why don't you go to the Unitarian Church here in Bellingham? Peter did, and he immediately, like instantly, found family and found community. He joined with the choir, and he helped doing the lighting and the sound. He found 2 strong communities, actually 3 communities: the bicyclists, the museum, and the Unitarian Church. He explored. He found community everywhere. He also found an abundance of outdoor activities, being close and well connected with nature. This was difficult in San Francisco unless you were in a park. He thrived in Bellingham. Peter became well known. He danced everywhere, going up and down the sidewalk to where he was going. He even danced in the weight room at the YMCA. People loved it. People would stop him and say, "Thank you for dancing for us." Through the years, Peter shone like a rainbow to the people of Bellingham. He grew older and older. He also became feebler as he grew old. He cried. He worried that he would become that man in the hotel. That never happened. However, soon Peter found himself in hospice. People gathered around him in droves. People kept close to him at his bedside until that time arrived. Peter found himself in the clouds, with rainbows shining below him through the clouds. He found others around him, a little anxious but mostly excited with anticipation. They gathered in groups in soft conversation. Peter learned about others, and he told others about his life. They were all friendly. Soon a line formed. People gravitated toward the line, and they waited patiently. There was still clouds obscuring what was in the front of the line. Soon it became clear. There was a beautiful gate in front of them all, with a mighty wall on either side. People slowly gravitated toward the gate. Peter soon saw there were angels standing at the foot of the gate, many in white robes, many in multiple colored robes. As the people stepped up from the line, the angels would embrace them and gently escort them into the Shangri-La beyond. When he was waiting in line, he knew people called this place the cosmos was simply Shangri-La. He saw palaces, he saw gardens, he saw lakes, he saw pools, he saw beautiful people, beautiful angels. Soon his place came in the line. He started to step toward the angels, but suddenly, with no warning, a man stepped up to him with his mighty hand, grabbed Peter by his tiny, feeble fist. Frightened, Peter was marched past the angels, around the gate, and into the kingdom. Then suddenly he was left alone. The man strode away from him. Frightened, Peter started to cry. Then he felt a much more gentler hand on each of his shoulders. He looked to his sides. He saw two angels, one at each side, with a hand on each shoulder. They said, "Be not in fear. You're in love here." The two angels then embraced Peter in a very wholesome, embracing hug. They then embraced Peter with their arms around his shoulders as they gently shepherded him through the ground, one of them whispering in his ears, "Peter, we're sorry for the horrible reception." He gets excited at times, but he's a wonderful man. You have to understand, we need you, and we need your love, and we need your knowledge far more than you need us. We're going to shepherd you to the King of Shangri-La. They shepherded Peter towards this big, huge castle of a mansion on a hill overlooking the clouds. He was surrounded by other mansions, other big homes, other beautiful buildings. The mansion had beautiful gardens. Many shepherds, many people of all kinds were tending the gardens, or playing lawn games, or reading books, or just having quiet or animated conversation. As Peter and the angels walked by, some of them stopped what they were doing and bowed respectfully at the three of them as they walked by. The angels led Peter up a long staircase to the mighty doors of the mansion. The doors were open. Peter was led into an enormous ballroom. Many people were quietly doing things. Some were painting using an easel. Some were talking. Some were playing cards. Some were doing exercises on some exercise equipment way off in a corner. Peter was led through that grand ballroom, and then they entered a long hallway. They entered yet another ballroom, and an orchestra was playing a tune, and people were starting to dance. People looked at them with envy, but some of them stopped dancing and bowed at Peter and the angels as Peter was ushered or shepherded through that ballroom and into a long corridor. They stepped through a large door to the right, a beautiful wooden door. It was slightly open. One of the angels knocked gently on that door. A deep voice said, "Peter, we're waiting for you. Please enter." The angels pushed the door. Peter went inside. However, the angels did not go in. They closed the door very gently as Peter stepped into the room beyond. It was an enormous drawing room, like a study, but there was no big desk. A man was seated in beautiful, colorful robes in one of the sofas. He got up. He approached Peter, and they embraced, and they embraced. Peter started to cry into this man's shoulder, his tears soaking in the rich fabrics of the garment he was wearing. They stood there hugging, with the man gently stroking Peter's back. They finally separated, and the man said, "Welcome to Shangri-La. I am the king of Shangri-La. Please come over, let's sit and talk." The two of them sat down on that beautifully upholstered sofa with such wonderful tapestry fabrics. The king slid over to Peter and put his arms around Peter. Peter was still crying. He leaned over and rested his head gently on the king's shoulder. The king said, "Peter, we know all about your trouble with San Francisco, and I cry with you. Many of us, including myself, have the same Asperger's, same social type problems. Many of us are goofy. Many of us are different. This is your home. Welcome home. I know that you wanted to be reincarnated as a rainbow, but I need to tell you honestly, we in Shangri-La feel that we need you far more than you need to be a rainbow. Let us explain. When people come here and ask to be reincarnated, it goes through a central system to find out just where they are to be reincarnated to. And that system is starting to wobble. We know that you've been a really brilliant, dedicated, and conscientious engineer through your career. We know that you're a very sensitive person, and that is maybe why you had problems. We also know that you showed love to William in his last days in that hotel as a homeless person sleeping in the corridor. I cried with this. Peter lost it. He cried, sobbing loudly, tears flowing. into and through the fabric of the king's robe. The king started to feel moisture on his left shoulder, but he ignored it as he comforted Peter and just simply let Peter cry. It lasted about 15 minutes. He finally settled down, and the king, still in tears, grasping Peter's hand tightly, said, "Peter, I am prepared to gift you the position of Director of Engineering and Technology for the Shangri-La Kingdom. You will be responsible for all of our technology. You may not know it now, but you will learn it. You will be working with thousands of dedicated people on the team. You will be providing guidance, and you may not know it now, but you will learn quickly. I know that you have the ability to learn, to lead this organization, to fix the problems we have, and to allow us all to be a shining, flawless rainbow." Peter lost it again. 15 minutes to a half hour more heavy crying. He finally settled down, and the king said, "Let's show you around. I'm going to show you someone who really wants to see you." The two of them got up. The king gently shepherded Peter out of the drawing room, up a large staircase to the second level, like a marble grand staircase. Second level with more rooms, more ballrooms, more drawing rooms, more offices, game rooms. One looked like a laboratory, like a hobby room. They walked down the hallway. They came to a series of doors leading to what appeared to be communal bedchambers. Peter got excited. He always wondered what it would be like to sleep with many others. They kept walking down, and they found one with the door partially opened. The king knocked on the door. It was opened from inside by William. Peter and William immediately ran to each other and hugged and hugged and cried and cried. They could not settle down for another 15 minutes. Finally found peace, embracing. The king embraced the two of them and said to Peter, "William will be your assistant. William already knows a lot of the technology. You did not know this, but William was an engineer as well. However, he was fired because he was gay, and he was forced to do menial jobs, sleeping in your hotel. You, Peter, have gifted William with a true love that he had never had in his life." Suddenly, Peter and William hugged, and cried, and cried. The king embraced the two of them, crying himself. The tears of all three of them were forming a small river on the floor of that bedchamber. Soon they all found peace, and William suggested to both Peter and the king, "I would like to show Peter around. I'd like to get Peter to feel fully at home." The king said, "Yes, let's all go outside together." So the three of them walked out of the bedchamber, down the grand staircase, down to the first level, through the two big ballrooms, and into the gardens. The king turned and said to Peter and William, Unfortunately, I have to leave to rest. I had a very busy night anticipating your arrival, and I'm very, very emotionally drained. The three of them hugged one last time, and the king walked gently back toward the mansion. Peter was led by William along the side of the promenade to what looked like a very well-appointed but modern-looking building. The door was open. The gardens were not as rich and sumptuous as with the mansion. There was a little plaque above the door in a foreign language. William said, Engineering and Technology Center. The door was open. They walked inside. There were several people inside working in laboratories, working in shops, and in meetings. But they all stopped, walked outside, walked out in the hallway, and greeted William and Peter. They bowed. William announced, "Here is your new Director of Engineering and Technology. Give your love to him." They all bowed, and many of them came forward to try to embrace Peter and William. The crowd was so large, some could not even reach the two of them. But they showed respect, and they bowed. And William nodded, and they started to back off. And William gave Peter a tour of the building, of the laboratories, introducing Peter to many of the people and explaining to Peter what was going on. Peter knew that he had a lot to learn. However, he knew he had that solid ability, the gift to learn quickly. William led Peter down to a lower level that was evidently below ground. There were no windows. It was a long granite corridor, feeling solid and very, very quiet. Many doors led off of it to more laboratories, more shops on one side. On the other side were huge plate glass windows, interspaced with doors, and they looked out into a room about the size of 3 or 4 football fields, with racks and racks and racks of computer equipment. At least Peter recognized it as computer equipment. He recognized the lights flashing, and he recognized some of the cabling. William touched his palm to a door, and it opened automatically. They were greeted by the soft hum of thousands of machines. Peter noticed several lights flashing on one of the machines, and he saw buttons that he thinks he recognized. He nodded to William. William nodded. Peter gently touched one of the buttons. The flashing red lights all went out. The computer sounded like it was stopping. Then it started to lie. Then it started again. And the lights started to flash green. Peter was totally surprised. His instinct saved him. His instinct allowed him to do his first good deed here in Shangri-La. Two embraced right there in that server room, leaning against the racks. As William said, "Peter, we know you're going to make it. We know you will be the one we will come for help. Hey, how would you like to work on our first project?" And Peter said, yes, excitedly. His eyes lit up like stars. They walked out of the building, and they walked toward the gate, far away on the other side. William raised his hands and waved at some people in the distance and waved them over. Several people gravitated toward Peter and William. They stopped, and William said, "We would wish you to welcome our new Director of Engineering and Technology, Peter Pirani." They bowed and they clapped, and they followed Peter and William until they arrived close to the big, mighty gates and the multitudes of angels around them. William explained to Peter that on that desk there's a special full-size tablet built into the top of the desk. It's like your computer terminals. This is how the angels try to arrange the reincarnations of the people coming up, or arrange the welcoming to those people who wish to stay here in the great kingdom of the cosmos, in the kingdom of the Shangri-La. This is also where we're having problems. The cables connecting this to the computers are getting very old. So, Peter's first major job, embraced by others, all working together in the beautiful kingdom of the cosmos and the Shangri-La, was pulling network cables, just like at home, but far more magical. All the people knew he was gay. Many of them were gay. Many of them had Asperger's. Many of them were just like him. Both men and women went at it, madly pulling cables, breaking cables, running snakes down the cable runs, all day, having one heck of a good time. For a first day for Peter Pirani in the great rainbows of the sky, the kingdom of the cosmos, and the kingdom of Shangri-La. Amen. I love you all.